Hello, this is the ramblings of an Undisciplined Mind podcast for Monday, May 2nd, 2016. As of this recording, Sierra is still missing. This is week 5 out of 11 of my capstone course. So I finished over the weekend a book by Stross, who's one of the Hugo winners that I read. I forget what the Hugo winning book was. I probably talked about it, but I've been kind of hitting his back catalog, other stories, because I enjoy his work. His books are not terribly long, and he's got an interesting worldview typically going on. So I got this book called Halting State. This is from the library. And I started reading this thing. And the premise is kind of interesting. You've got a bank robbery that happens inside this video game. It sounds like it's some sort of an MMO like World of Warcraft. And the fact that the bank got robbed in itself is troubling, because it's really a hacking attack on a uber secured database, and basically the database was stolen. The records in the table was stolen, and the company that's who owns it is doesn't even know for sure what was in it at the time of the theft, because players would store loot and valuable items in there, so they didn't have to be that they weren't using all the time, so they didn't have to be continually carrying it with them. And then it kind of explodes out into, well, okay, so was it an inside job? There is a developer for the firm that always worked remotely that has gone missing at about the same time, which is suspicious. And it turns into a really wide-ranging story of trying to figure out, okay, so how does all this link together, and who's actually behind it? And by the end, it's got really, really, really big implications, and I won't state what those are. But I got to tell you, in like the first 10 pages, I almost just put it down, because the narrative point of view just annoyed me. And what he did was he wrote it in second person. And this is not what he usually does. I've not seen any of his other books that are written this way. So second person, it's like somebody's telling a story about you. And so whenever the character thinks something or does something, or says something, instead of he, she, whatever, it's you. Oh, you said this, and you did this, and you thought this. And it was just unsettling, because it's like, well, I'm not thinking these things. I'm not doing these things. What the heck? And then to make matters worse, I probably could have come to terms with it quicker if he had one POV character, one point of view character. He had 3. So you had Sue, who is a police sergeant who got pulled in when the theft was originally reported, because somebody actually thought to call the cops, although later they kind of regretted that. So you had that, and then you had Elaine, who was a forensic accountant who worked for a firm that was, they weren't the firm who owned the bank, but they were like auditing it or whatever, so they had to go in and kind of figure out what was going on because they were like investors in it or something along those lines. And then you had Jack, and for a long time it was hard to figure out how Jack was going to fit in. Jack was a developer, a game developer, and he did not work for the company who had gotten robbed. He just gotten fired, and he ended up working for the auditing firm and working with Elaine and trying to figure out what's going on. And really, it's kind of strange because the story also starts off with probably Sue being more of the main character, because you're spending a lot of time with her as you're figuring out what's going on, and then it introduces Elaine, and you get these chapters with Jack, but you don't really understand how he all fits together. And then for the back half of the book, it's probably more Elaine and Jack than Sue. I mean, Sue's still there a little bit, but it felt like the focus kind of shifted. So I really had to, he did at least put in the chapter headings, this is Elaine or Jack or whoever, but I really had to pay attention to who it was, because I just kept having this mental dissonance every time I picked the book back up again and I read, oh, you did this, and I'm like, oh, who am I now? And I'd have to go look and say, oh, I'm Sue, or I'm Elaine, or I'm Jack. And yeah, I did stick with it because the story was interesting, and I enjoyed the story, but yeah, not my favorite point of view. Not one I would ever write in. Didn't really enjoy that aspect of the story at all. The rest, I enjoyed the story itself, and that's why I stuck with it. I did finish it. But I would have just assumed that he had done more of a traditional third-person POV, or even first-person if he wanted to really make it immediate. I don't really understand what the point was of second-person, unless he was just tired of pronouns. But for me, it really kind of threw me out of the story a lot. And if it wasn't a story that I found interesting, I probably would have put it down. I will say, if you're not a developer or not into IT things, this might be a bit of a heavy story for you to pick up, because it's around game development. There's lots of buzzwords and jargon and stuff going on there that I think somebody who wasn't plugged into computers and developing and whatnot, and infrastructure for computers might be lost a lot more than I was. So I will throw that out there as a caveat. The other thing that happened over the weekend is I had started replaying Portal 2. I've actually been playing a little bit. They've got a developer commentary. There's a DLC I downloaded a while back for free for it, and they got a developer commentary where you can play through the maps, and at certain points they'll have these little balloons that you can click on, and you'll get some developer commentary. There's not a ton of it, but there's a number of it. So I ended up replaying a lot of the maps from Portal 2. But just kind of piecemeal. And so I finally said, let's just play through it again, because I haven't gotten back to Tomb Raider because I'm kind of in the middle of this battle thing, and I just haven't felt like battles. And I do like the pacing of Portal 2, that I can make my own pace. I can go slow or as fast as I want. There's typically not a ton of stress involved, because except at the end there's no real danger to self unless you make a wrong move. Well, there is some danger to self, but you got plenty of time to stand there and think if you need to stand there and think, whatever. So I decided, the heck with it. I'm gonna redo the single level thing and just start playing through it again. And it's a fun game. I love that game, and I especially love when you're down in the lower levels and you're going through all this stuff from the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, and all the offices look like that, and you're kind of like going through these old offices that have just been sitting there for 40, 50 years or less, but no, it's like somebody left them 40 years ago and went home, and then they sealed it up and nobody's been back. I mean, literally, that was how they had it looking. So it's kind of cool. I enjoy that. But I did finish it. I finished it again for the second time yesterday, and yeah, I really enjoyed that. It's got me jonesing for a Portal 3. The problem is if they came out with Portal 3 now, it'd probably only play on Xbox One or PlayStation 4. So that really doesn't do me a darn any good. But so yeah, it was fun. It was fun. Yeah, I do know there's if you play it on PC, if you play it on Steam, there's a big community of people that make maps and throw them out there so you can play them. Because I've watched a lot of gameplay videos of guys that do this, and I kind of wish that they could get it so that we had access to something like that off of Xbox. That would be a lot of fun. Because there's a couple of really big ones. You know, there's one called Aperture Paint and one called Portal Stories Mel that are based on the Portal 2 engine that I've actually watched gameplay videos of, but it would be kind of fun to play. But you can't get that on Xbox. It's only a PC thing, and I don't play it on PC. So whatever. My intention is when I get done with the capstone, I'm gonna be. I want to finish Tomb Raider. I'm almost done with that darn thing, and then I'm thinking Fallout New Vegas is next on the gaming lessons. I'll have some time I can put toward gaming. But I do bet, Portal 2 has kind of got a unique area there in the puzzle space, and I haven't found another puzzly kind of game that I like as well as the Portal series. So it would be cool if they decided to continue it, but it isn't looking too likely at this point. So anyway, that's what I was thinking about today. I will let that be that for today. I will be back tomorrow. I'll be talking to you then. So, seeing you.